What's up, everybody? This is Whisky in the Six. I'm Rob. Today I'm here at Last Straw Distillery, and I'm here with two very special people, and they're the owners of this place.
I'm Anna.
I'm Don.
All right, so for some of you, this is coming as a reminder that we are collaborating on a whiskey. We chose a mash bill. That's the white right there. Our mash bill consisted of 70% corn, 20% rye, and 10% barley, correct?
Yep.
We chose a Wild Turkey Recharred number 4 barrel. And so far, after not even 2 months, it's looking like that. So it's looking pretty good. But before we get into all of that, how did this all start?
Well, I came home one day and said, I want to start a distillery.
Yep, that's pretty much how it went. Yeah.
I was thinking of opening a brewery for a while. A family friend, John Graham from King City, where I grew up, started Church Key Brewery. And I was following what John was doing and thinking, how cool is that to be brewing or, creating alcohol for a living, and decided to look into opening a brewery. And while I was doing that, I realized I was drinking whiskeys, scotches, Irish whiskeys. And when I searched to see how many distilleries were in Ontario, I found one. And that was it. And I decided we needed to have more.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that if I would have come home with something like that, my wife would have laughed at me and said, go back to work. But that didn't happen with you guys, right? Something very different happened.
We decided to go for it, and here we are, 6 years later.
Yeah,
How about that? Yeah.
it feels like it.
And so the name is very cool. I think that's one of the really cool draws to this distillery. So how did that come to be?
We were sitting around trying to figure out what name to come up with, and I had just finished articling, had started my first job. I was a first-year associate. We had a lot going on. We've got kids and grandkids and whatnot, and I just blurted out something like, well, maybe that's the last straw or something, that, because we had so much going on already. And also at the time, we were thinking of the sort of the grain to glass, and straw, hay, barley, oats, all that kind of stuff just kind of seemed to fit in.
Awesome play on words, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so cool name, local distillery. What are some of the products that you guys are putting out there? Because you guys are now in the LCBO, right?
We're in limited LCBOs. We have Dark Side of the Moonshine currently in some LCBOs, which is a traditional corn sugar moonshine. The difference is we age ours, so it's spent 1 year in a Jack Daniel's barrel.
Okay, cool.
We also have Blackstrap, which is for lack of better terms, a molasses moonshine. So it's unaged, it's just a white spirit off the still, reduced down to 46. We have those two in the LCBO. We're currently working on getting our darker side in, which is the same as the dark side, except it's aged in a number 3 or number 4 char barrel for a shorter period of time, but it treats more like it tastes more like a bourbon.
Yeah.
And we're looking at getting our Gin 21 into the LCBO.
That's awesome. I actually am going to be reviewing each one of those. I have bottles of each at home, and they're all delicious, so I highly recommend that you guys either come here and buy them or find out where those limited LCBOs are to purchase them. So here's the white. Now, like we said earlier, it's a combination of 70% corn, 20% rye, and 10% barley. We did this different than the traditional Canadian whiskey.
Yes. Well, traditional Canadian whiskeys, you'll have, you'll distill corn and you'll barrel age corn. You'll distill rye and barrel age rye. You'll distill barley, barrel age barley, and you'll blend it after the fact. This is done more like an American whiskey, an American bourbon, where it's all been mashed together. So all the grains were in one cook. They were fermented in one, they were distilled in one. They've never separated from day one.
Yeah.
So it is more of a bourbon style, though we can't call it bourbon in Canada.
Correct.
But we can definitely make
Yeah.
a bourbon style.
Absolutely. And I think what's cool about this is that we can actually use the term mash bill, right? Because
Yes.
the term mash bill doesn't really apply to Canadian whiskeys because, like you said, you're marrying the whiskeys after the fact. So the mash was done all together, which we're really excited about. I know I am. And so far we've tasted these and we're both pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really stoked, especially looking at 2 months worth of color.
Yeah, like
That's crazy. And you know, we can always do the old moonshiners thing with, oh, look at the bubbles.
Exactly. All right, so if you guys are okay with it, let's try it and we'll let them know what we think. And
Try the white.
yeah, let's
Okay.
go with the white first. I think
Okay.
that makes sense.
I think we'll go ladies first.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to go with the glass, but we're going to make whiskey in the 6th drink from the jar.
Traditionally.
All right, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Super sweet.
Kick to it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
does have a kick. But it's honestly, I think it's very tasty.
It's nice.
It's super sweet. What's the percentage of this in the barrel? Going into the barrel.
We cast this at 65.
Okay.
That's a mathematical guess based on what we thought the barrel would handle. We didn't reduce it into a different vessel, then pump it in the barrel. We pumped in the LAA we thought would go in. So we estimated at 65. I've done some preliminary checks on it, but nothing substantial. So I let's call it 65. Might be a little higher, but that's okay. But it's nice because you get the sweetness. It's drinkable at that level.
Exactly.
But you do get the heat and you get that rye burn which starts to move to the back of your tongue, which I really love. That's what I love about rye is it's very complex and it really stands out in this spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
And you can see even like as it's trailing down the glass, like it's just the oiliness of it, like the barley's coming through.
Yeah.
It's a great spirit. I'm really happy with it. It's better than I expected.
This was taken today directly from the barrel, and there's no added color. So Don's getting us a barrel pull here. It's a copper pipe. As you can see, if you focus in on the left side of the top part of the barrel there, this is whiskey in the 6. That's the barrel that's allotted for us. Already has some beautiful color on that whiskey. Look at that. That's the work of a char number 4. Right there, guys. You guys don't really chill filter anything, right?
No, nothing's chill filtered. It's from the barrel. It goes through a 1 micron paper filter just to make sure we're trying to get as much of the carbon or whatever out from the barrel. Like we don't want to have anything in the bottle, of course, because nobody wants to see floaties, basically.
Absolutely.
But that's all we do. From the barrel, filter it out with paper, and in the bottle it goes.
Yeah. So as natural as allowed, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So maybe we'll move on to the next little tasting here.
Thank you.
Okay, you're gonna get a glass this time, Rob?
Thanks. I appreciate it. We were trying to do a rendition of the show Moonshiners with the jar, and you can already see the whiskey's starting to take character, like
Yeah.
the barrel.
It's nice.
It's almost completely different from the white.
Oh yeah,
It's shocking what
yeah.
2 months can do.
It's night and day, in my opinion.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Even at that strength, it's smooth.
What strength is that?
It's in the 60s, like
Yeah.
65.
That's really, really nice.
You're starting to pick up the char is so heavy. You're getting caramel. You're getting a little bit of that vanilla, but a lot of the caramel.
Yeah, completely, like almost like a caramel bomb. I like to call it.
Yeah,
Love
be
that.
great on ice cream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Should we add a touch of water to that just to see what would
Just
happen?
open it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. just goes to show, like, 2 months in the barrel, and if someone told me this was a 3 or 4-year-old whiskey, it would be hard to tell. For me, I know you guys are involved in all the making, and you've done barrel pulls from like all kinds of different ages, so maybe a little easier for you, but for me, that's a whiskey already.
Well, what makes a difference is it is the cuts you make, and our son Brandon is the main distiller, and he's now decided I shouldn't be doing any distilling because he has a very narrow idea of what a heart's cut should be, and he did most of the cutting for this whiskey, and especially knowing that it was going out on social media, he wanted to make sure that it was the best of the best. And especially, you know, a bourbon style isn't necessarily going to age for 12, 18 years. It's going to age for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Likely we're going to come out at 3 with this.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And the tighter the cut, the better the whiskey, the better the spirit, the better the whiskey at a young age. And that's why you're noticing very early on, it's taking on the characteristic of a whiskey. It's not having to worry about the congeners and all the bad elements of, you know, a long cut or too many tails or any element of heads in it. It's strictly the hearts working with the wood, working with the char.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, heads, hearts, and tails, that's basically the chronological order that the spirit is coming out of the still, right?
Yeah, the heads, you're going to get your very early foreshots, going to have acetones and very, very ugly things coming out, and then you're going to get the methanol coming out, and then when the temperature gets high enough, the hearts run will start. There's this crossover period where the heads are ending and the hearts are starting, so certain distillers will decide where to make that cut. And you know, if you're going to go long in the barrel, if you do take part of that early cut, that's okay. The barrel's going to treat it over time. We don't have a luxury. We're a small distillery. We've got 20 barrels down. Our first whiskey is coming out in 2019. We hope, if it's ready. There's no sense releasing it if it isn't. But we have to narrow that down a bit. So we're dealing with more of a hearts cut. If you go too long in the cut, we're going to be spending a lot of money in real estate waiting for barrels to get ready.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, Brandon's really come into his own, picking those cuts and deciding, like, I can be distilling, and he'll walk in the back of the distillery and they go, "Oh, you're into tails," and I'm thinking, "Oh, really?" I am. But he can smell it from a distance away, and he has that knack. He can pick that.
He's got that young nose.
Yeah, he's got the young nose. I have the older nose.
Yeah.
A lot of construction dust in this nose. But it's what we've decided to go with is his gut. He seems to have a knack for this, so we're letting him pick these cuts, and I think you can tell early on in the spirit's life.
Oh yeah.
It's making a big difference.
This is a beautiful whiskey already, in my opinion. I know we can't technically call it that, but it's
still 3 years out.
yeah, exactly.
It's on its way to being an amazing whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait for I'm really looking forward to this one. We've got a couple projects down, and that's the cool thing about a micro distillery. We get to do decent projects that nobody else is doing because they're likely not commercially viable to do. But you know, if we do one off here and there, you know, what does it hurt? And we're doing some neat stuff with the brewery. We're doing stuff with you with this, and we've got, even with the miller that does our grain, we've got some projects laid down. I've got a spirit that tastes like a breakfast cereal.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And we're going to see what it's like in 3 years in a barrel. So, you know, watch for that one, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's another thing you guys are doing here, which is relatively new, and I think really cool. Because, and I talk about this in the whiskey YouTubing industry as well. I wish I had someone to kind of show me the ropes when I started, because I would have accelerated hopefully at a little quicker pace. But you guys are offering that kind of service for new people to the distilling.
Yep.
So did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. We get a lot of emails and phone calls and even drop-ins of people that would, you know, and no different than I did. Like early on, I went to Stillwater's Distillery in Concord. Pretty much the day I decided to do this.
I think so.
And I rang the bell, and Barry Steen came to the door, and I walked in and I said, you know, "Hi, this is who I am. By the way, I'm researching and I'm looking at opening a micro distillery." And instead of kicking me out the door and saying, "Get out of here, kid," or whatever, he invited me in open arms, and he showed me the distillery, showed me the system, how the equipment was, and they were so open and great. And I said to them, you know, I can't believe how wonderful you guys are being to me.
And how generous with
and
their
how
time.
generous with their
Because
time.
this
And
takes a lot of
oh
time.
yeah, like phone
Lots of
calls and stuff.
questions.
Yeah.
So I made them a deal. I said, you know, I'll try and buy a bottle every time I come with a silly question. So that was our early R&D budget gone to Stillwater. But I had a lot of great spirits and whiskey, and we were there for their whiskey launch, and that was really fun to be part of the first single malt whiskey released in Ontario.
Yeah. For sure.
And they've been great. They're still a great help. I still talk to both of them all the time. And I want to pass that on, so we help other people. So when we get phone calls and emails, I respond to everything.
Yeah.
And even through the Craft Distilling Association, we'll get a lot of emails to the association. They'll get passed to me about people asking questions because they're looking into it. And it's hard to find information.
Yeah.
So we give that information, and we've gone one step further. We offer a course to prospective distillers, where it's a 2-day course. We bring you in, we talk about, you know, the applications, the compliance you need to do. And I'll take them through a mash fermentation. We'll actually do a physical mash here, and we'll actually do a stripping distilling run and a distilling run. Mm-hmm. And I make it clear that this is how we do things, but showing you that, you know, a construction worker and a lawyer can figure this out. There's a way you can figure it out wherever you come from. You may not do exactly what we do, or you may be completely different than us, but all others are different than us anyhow right now. So it's a big wide world, and come on in. And here's
this
how
has
you
been
do
our
it.
experience, and we're hoping that by laying out sort of the progress that we've gone through makes it a little bit easier for them, or at least helps them to focus their questions and whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and I think, like I was saying earlier, that goes with almost all streams. If you have a little bit of guidance, it's such a great thing. So you guys are doing an awesome thing. That's really something commendable.
Mm-hmm.
What else can we expect from Last Straw in the next little while? Like, what's coming out? Maybe there's a spirit coming out that you want to talk about, or
we've been deciding to really ramp up our darker side of the moonshine, and we're actually going to rebrand it as called this darker side. Moonshine has been not getting a great acceptance in Ontario,
right?
and we feel the word's hurting us, and we've actually had customers tell us that.
Yeah.
So we're going to drop it down to darker side. There's several spirits out on the market right now that are almost whiskeys. Our moonshine can never be a whiskey because we use a sugar with the corn.
Right.
So we don't try and pound it off as a whiskey, but we tell people it's a traditional moonshine. However, in marketing terms, with the name on the bottle, it seems to hurt. So we're going to probably market it as darker side.
But we have a September coming out.
Yeah, well, potentially our first whiskey could come out in September. We're going to collectively sit down and do a barrel pull probably a month or two before and make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
If not, it's going to wait for cask one rye. We've actually had some pre-sales on it. A lot of people waiting for it. If I could sell it today, I would. It's so good.
Yeah.
I have to walk by the barrel and just look away.
I've done a couple barrel pulls here as well, and everything I've tried has been fantastic, especially the rye that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And the corn. There's another corn. Not allowed to talk about.
No,
it.
can't talk about the corn.
Fantastic stuff. So, honestly, I want to thank you guys. This has been an awesome opportunity for me to collaborate with two great people that, share a passion for whiskey, just in a different stream of it. And I've loved it so far. I think in 3 years we have an excellent whiskey to look forward to.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for coming by, and I hope you come by again.
Yeah, for sure. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.